In order to understand all the causes and consequences of the colonization of the Americas, we must also consider the perspectives of the tribes who live in the land that was colonized. We will be including the tribal perspective as we learn about the founding of our country. On our world map, we saw the piece of land that became the location of the 13 colonies. That is this area right here, where the land of what is now this country meets the Atlantic Ocean. Some other geographical features that are important to note are the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River. And to help us identify the directions, we need another compass rose like we had on our world map. But before the 13 colonies were created by settlers coming from Europe, before anyone else stepped foot on this continent, there were more than 500 independent nations residing in what we call North America, since time immemorial. In this area, the tribes were divided into two regions, the Northeast tribes and the Southeast tribes. In the Northeast, where the 13 colonies were established, there were over 35 tribal nations already existing, and some of these tribes include the Penobscot. The homelands of the Penobscot people are located in the area of present-day Maine, and the Penobscot Nation is one of the oldest continuously operating governments in the world. There are also the Massachusetts. The Massachusetts tribe lived and thrived in what is now the state of Massachusetts. Before the arrival of English settlers in 1620, European traders brought diseases that killed nearly 80% of the indigenous population of this area. The Wampanoag, the tribe that lived in the area where the first settlers arrived on the Mayflower in December of 1620. There are also the Seneca, Oneida, and Mohawk tribes. These were 3 of the 6 nations that made up the Iroquois Confederacy, or the Haudenosaunee people, a democratic government that united the tribes that occupied large areas of land in what is now New York State and southeast Canada. Delaware, whose original homelands were in the area of present-day Delaware and New Jersey, but were forced west until they eventually were forced onto a reservation in Oklahoma. Another was Pamunkey. The Pamunkey were one of a coalition of more than 30 tribes in the area of present-day Virginia, led by Chief Powhatan. Pocahontas was the chief's daughter and Pamunkey's famous ancestor, whose story has been told inaccurately in books and movies without considering the actual history and perspective of the native people. A few of the tribes in the southeast region include the Chickasaw. The tribe's original homeland was in what is now parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky. They were removed by the U.S. government to new territory in Oklahoma along a route some refer to as the Trail of Tears, along with other southeastern tribes. There was also the Muskogee, a union of several tribes with towns in what is now Alabama and Georgia. The Muskogee people were forced by the U.S. government, along with other southeast tribes, to areas east of the Mississippi River and eventually onto a reservation in Oklahoma. Also the Choctaw. The Choctaw people lived in what is now Alabama and Georgia and were also forced along the Trail of Tears to their present-day reservation in Oklahoma. As we continue to learn about the colonization of America by European settlers, we will keep in mind that the tribal people who were here first. We will look at the effect of the colonization on the tribes, which includes illness, wars, and the loss of their homelands, which continues to impact tribal people today.